Asian American education. Asian American populations has increased significantly since the 1970s and since the Korean, the Vietnam, and World War II, where Vietnamese, Cambodians have all immigrated to the United States. Many achieve success, although majority struggle to receive an education and finding jobs. However, some have had considerable success. Some of the Asian population have the highest achieving high school students are Asian Americans, proof of the fact that their families typically place a high value on their education. Many Asian Americans have felt they've been discriminated since World War II, where over 100,000 Japanese American citizens were placed in internment camps and in some cases lost their own properties. The number of Hispanic American students in the United States has increased dramatically in recent years. The earliest formed schools on this continent were started and conducted in the 16th century by Spanish missionaries in Mexico and southwestern parts of what is now the United States. Missionary schools established in early Spanish schools primarily for religious purposes, to help people read the Bible and gain salvation. Students at early mission schools in now Mexico, Florida, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Cuba were taught by Catholic priests in the Spanish language. Hispanic American education did not develop as quickly or as well as the majority of the population. This discrepancy is due to, at least in part, to the fact that many Hispanic Americans are in the lower income bracket. Colonial schools did not provide education for girls in any significant way. In some instances, girls were taught to read, but females could not attend early Latin grammar schools or academic schools. Well-to-do parents hired private tutors or sent their daughters away to girls' seminary, and girls from poor schools were taught to read and write only at home. Emma Willard was a pioneer and champion of education for females. She opened one of the first female seminary schools in 1821 in Troy, New York. She proposed the following benefits of seminary school for girls. 1. Females, by having their understanding cultivated by their reasoning power developed and strengthened. 2. With minds thus strengthened, they would be taught systems of morality enforced by the sanctions of religion, and they might be expected to acquire juster and more enlarged views of their duty, and stronger and higher motives to its performance. The plan of education offers that all can be done to preserve female youth from contempt of useful labor. 4. The pupils might be expected to acquire a taste for moral and intellectual pleasures which avoid them above a passion for show and parade. By being enlightened in moral philosophy and that which teaches the operations of mind, females would be embedded to perceive the nature and extent of influence which they possess over their children, and the obligations which this lies them under to watch the formation of the characters with unceasing vigilancy. Maria Montessori first became a successful physician and later prominent education philosopher. Her methods utilized child-sized furniture and specially designed learning materials. She emphasized independent work by children under the guidance of a trained teacher. Ella Young earned a doctorate degree at the age of 15 under John, was appointed head of the Cook County Normal School in Illinois, and became superintendent of a gigantic Chicago public school system in 1909. She was elected the first president of the male-dominated National Education Association. It was reported that Mary would come home from school at the age of 9 and teach her brothers and sisters. She devoted her life to improving education opportunities for young African American women. She eventually started the Daytona Normal and Industrial School for African American young women and Bethel Cookman College, where she serves as the president until 1942. Education helps everyone respect the dignity of all people, regardless of color or creed, and that it is needed equally by Caucasian Americans, African Americans, and all other Americans. The Women's Rights Convention, held at the time, passed 12 resolutions that attempted to spur interest in providing females more equal participation in rights in the U.S. society. In 1920, the 19th Amendment passed, which gave women the right to vote. Unfortunately, the right to vote did not necessarily do much to improve the status of women. Females continued to be denied equal education and equal opportunities for employment. Religious affiliated schools were operated by churches, missionary societies, and private individuals. In 1816, the state of New Hampshire attempted to take over Dartmouth College, which was a private institution. The U.S. Supreme Court first decision involved the legal right of a private school. The Supreme Court decided that the private school charter must be viewed as a contract and cannot be broken arbitrarily by a state. The court decided that a private school could not be forced against its will to become a public school. It was the Roman Catholics and the Lutherans who eventually developed and elaborated parochial schools systems operated by their respective denominations. In 1820, there were 240 Lutheran parochial schools in Pennsylvania. Lutheran leaders continued to establish parochial schools until the private school system became well established. Currently in the United States, there are approximately 1,700 Lutheran elementaries and secondary schools with an enrollment of 200,000 students, and the Roman Catholic parochial school system, which grew very rapidly after its beginning in the 1800s. 1900 to 1960, there was about 855, more than 5 million students.